Hi, everyone. I just wanted to say that I do not have the rights to this music. It is my Pandora subscription that I am listening to. Hi, Monica. Hi, ladies. I'm now streaming to YouTube. Make sure that this is going.
How's it going?
Good. I'm trying to make sure that this is streaming correctly. Let's see.
I feel like this talk could not have been better timed.
And I was, funnily enough, I was thinking about changing the talk because of just everything. Oh, there we are. Hi, Stevie. Okay, so people can see me. The rights. Okay, so awesome. I think I have it set up. I have it set up. So let me turn on my music. Welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for joining me. Here we are doing a talk, fittingly, as Rachel put it, on presence and the art of letting go. So I wanted to do this talk because I think that people really should speak about things that are things that they know a lot about. And I know a lot about endings because my life has just been riddled with endings, whether it was leaving one country for another, or leaving one state for another, or leaving friends for another, or leaving lovers for another. It's just been a constant revolving door of change. And I wanted to share the pearls of wisdom that I gained from, going through all those things and just giving people the opportunity to go into some of the changes that they go through and figure out for themselves what's the best bet. Okay. So I'm just going to jump right in because that's what I do. And it might be a long topic. I don't know. So hi, Teresa, welcome. And you guys that are joining me on, Zoom and YouTube, you're more than welcome to, it's a chat, it's a discussion to offer your perspective as well. Okay. So the first thing is that when you go through change or an ending, it's just as bad as going through something in a similar situation in a more high stressful position, such as like a death of a loved one or a divorce or something like that. I mean, I remember, I can't remember it now, but there was a scale of like top 10 stressors in life that people go through. And endings was up there like maybe 4 or 5 times, whether it was like a death or a divorce or the end of a job. It's just been coming up a lot. The thing is that we, on an egoic level, we really aren't built to handle endings. We almost live in this supernatural world of believing in this fantasy that things will just go on forever. And there is a saying that the only constant is change, because that's the truth of the matter. Nothing stays the same, everything changes. So it's interesting to me that we know that logically we have that understanding that everything changes. But yet somehow there's this dreamer in us that wants to keep these old things alive, even when they stop serving our best and highest good. So that's the first thing you want to start with when a change comes upon you, because let's be clear, changes rarely come with advance notice. Okay. It's not like you get a letter from the universe that be, and they say, well, we would like to let you know that on June 13th, you will be losing this job. Thank you. No, it never comes like that. It comes very much in a spur of a moment where you have to find your courage and your grit to make that choice, whether to go with the change or to resist. What do we know about resistance? What you resist persists, right? What you resist persists. So the thing is that when you move into this place of accepting this notion, which I'm going to share, which might freak you guys out, but we have to have some honest conversation here. When you go into this notion of accepting this statement, life opens up for you in a great way. The statement is, I am open to change. Now just feel the butterflies, the anxiety that comes with that already. We haven't even said what change, but already it's starting to sparkle some discomfort within you, usually in your belly, right? But try it again. I am open to change. I am open to change. I am open to change. Just repeat it over and over to yourself and notice the visceral feelings that you get flowing through you as you start to make this more the reality that you want to be living in, as opposed to the reality that you have been living in. Now, is it necessary to accept change and live with change and move with change? No, you can continue, fighting and resisting as much as you want to. But the thing is that you have to be aware that if you choose that path of fighting and resisting, that it's only going to get worse. Because the true thing is that change is not here to punish you. Change is here to help you. It's to help you go to the next level. Now, what is that next level? I don't know. You don't know. I don't know. And then that's the biggest, scariest part to me about the change, is that you're not sure what this is going to look like. Rob has a really great saying, and he says that, oh gosh, now I can't remember it. I'm putting myself on the spot. The fear of the unknown is greater than the fear of the same, or something like that. He says it so eloquently, but basically what he says is that we already know the monsters in our life, but sometimes we are willing to stay with those monsters because they're known to us, as opposed to stepping out in faith that there is a new road ahead. But because we don't know what monsters may come, they might be smaller, they might not even be monsters, but because we don't know, we rather stay with the monsters that we have. The fear of the unknown is greater than the change that it can bring. And I'm stumbling on my words because he has a great way of saying it. Yes, Rachel says change is never comfortable. It's not. So the first thing I always tell people is, let's get very specific. When we talk about relationships, whenever you get in a relationship, I always tell my clients, if you want a relationship and you're getting into a relationship, then you have to be prepared to end the relationship. Because 90% of the time, the relationship you're getting into doesn't work out. Right? Unless when you start dating that person, you both made this agreement that till death do us part, right? Most times the relationship you're getting into is not going to work out. Why? People change. Okay. People change. And one of the things that women do, and I have to say women, probably men do it too, but I'm not a man and I don't have that many male clients. So I can't speak from that perspective. But for women, one of the things we do is we like to hold men accountable to things they said to us years ago. But yet we expect them to understand us as we're changing, but then we don't want them to change. That has to stop. It has to be equal. You know, Teresa says, and even debt do us part is not a guarantee. Exactly. I mean, how many divorces have we? I'm a divorcee. How many divorces do we know have happened in the world, in the country? Yeah, nothing is said and done, and it's going to be the way you think it's going to be. So whenever you get into a relationship, if you're dealing with an ending in a relationship, you have to remind yourself that you were expecting this on some level. Because unless, like I said, and then even Teresa said, even if you say debt do us part, there's still no guarantee because people change. We evolve. That's the natural part of life. That's the natural cycle of life, right? So when we're evolving, if this person that you're with in relationship is not evolving with you, then there's going to be a constriction that comes up that's going to force you guys to want to break apart. That's where you get the more quarrels, the more notices of the differences. Whereas before you bonded over the similarities, then you start to really notice those differences and they can become quite annoying. Whenever you're together, you try to have a good time, but it never ends up that way. There's always a fight or something that just comes up. These are all the subtle signs that the change is coming. I've seen women actually try to unchange. So a lot of times when women come, you know, I own a metaphysical development center, and when they're working with me, you know, they're learning, they're growing, they're processing, they're evolving. 7 times out of 10, they turn their eyes or their gaze to their relationships, and they realize their needs are not getting met. But then when they start to realize their partner is not going to change, then they start to backpedal, if you will. Okay, well, I'm going to stop taking these classes. I'm just going to go back to our old life. But the problem is that the fire has already been sparked. And there's no going back. There's no going back. Sometimes I get blamed for sparking that fire. No, spirit sparks the fire. I'm just here to teach and to illuminate. That's it. But spirit sparks the fire. So whether it was me or some other teacher or some book or some movie or something will spark, because that again is a natural part of life. That's the evolution. So when you start to look at it from that point of view, you become very aware how precious our relationships are. Every time I meet new people, because I literally every year it's a changeover at my center. I get new students, I get new friends. The next year they're out, they're gone. I get new students, I get new friends. Out the next year, they're gone. And I've had to learn to not take it personally. And that's the one thing I'm going to ask you. When change happens in your relationships, you don't take it personally. You don't look at the other person and call them names. Oh, they're narcissistic. Oh, they're an a-hole. Oh, they, you know, I'm up leveling and they're not. No, it's nothing like that. Okay. Maybe they are. Maybe they're an a-hole. I don't know. But that's not the important part. The important part is recognizing that for that brief moment in time, you shared something special. And you should be able to walk away without tarnishing that memory of what you shared. If you look back on your past relationships now, and you can only see more anger and hurt than you can see love and appreciation, there's some shadow work to be done there. Because you're resisting the natural process, right? And then when the longer you're away from that person, the more I expect you to be healed, because you've had that time to heal and to work through it and to forgive them. And then to even in a way, find the love you originally had for them, you know? But I know that things can get traumatic. I went through a divorce, like many people go through divorces in this country, and divorces are hard. even if both parties are in agreement, it's time to end the relationship, it's still a hard thing. But you can't allow that to tarnish or put, a black spot on your heart. You have to go through the pain of change to get through to the other side where you can appreciate that person again. Now, I love my ex-husband. I love him dearly, but it took me maybe a year or two to really get into that because there was so much hurt and anger, right? As he was feeling too. So when you're getting into relationship, go in expecting nothing. I did a lot of online dating after my divorce, and I had a really great success with it. In fact, 3 of the guys that I dated from online dating are still friends with me, and very nice gentlemen. We had a good time. We were great as a couple, and then the energy shifted and we moved on in our separate ways, and we're still good friends. The thing is that people always ask me, how did you have such a good time with online dating? I've just had bad relationships or bad experiences. And I say, what you put into something is what you're going to get out of it. I never went into online dating expecting to meet the one, right? I went into online dating saying, I'm now divorced. My children are grown or growing up, and I'm ready to see what, is out there and what kind of companionship I can have on an intimate level. So I went in there fully aware that's where my heart was and where my mind was. Guess what? That's an open door. Energy begets energy. So then men became very interested in that because I didn't have any pressure. I wasn't pressuring them to marry me. My biological clock wasn't running out. I didn't have a timeline on when we needed to be married and all this craziness. I just was very appreciative of their company. Why? Because I have experienced change so much in my life that when it comes time to say goodbye, I don't get personally offended anymore. I trust that this ending needed to happen. There's a lot of people that used to be very big supporters at my studio that are no longer here. And I'm okay with that because I feel all of life is transitions. And the sooner we understand that, the better we get into that flow, the less resistance we give, the more opportunity that can come our way. Think about that for a second. How many times have you stopped opportunity coming your way because you refuse to move? Whether it's physically move or emotionally move or mentally or spiritually move, how many times have you stopped opportunities from coming in? When change is presented upon me, I do what everybody will do. I cry, I get upset, but then I know to myself that it's going to be better, it's going to be okay. But I allow myself to grieve the ending as I should. And then I pick myself up and I say, this is going to be better. I know it and I feel it and I trust it. And so shall it be. And it does. It always gets better. So we talked about relationships. Let's talk about jobs, right? The endings of jobs and careers. That could be quite traumatic because it's not just an emotional connection with the people that you have at work, but there's also that financial part of your livelihood that creates the life that you have. Some of us are luckily enough where we can, leave a job and then already have another job lined up. So it's okay. You just have to mourn the leaving of the old job. For most of us, the leaving of a job comes upon us suddenly, whether we are fired or we know that we have to resign. This does not work for us anymore. You take the time to grieve because that is also a form of a relationship. So it's also an ending. And coupled with it is not just the fear of the unknown that you would get in a relationship, it's also the fear of survival. What am I going to do? How am I going to eat? How am I going to pay these bills? What's going to happen? So when people come to me and they're ending jobs or careers or they're shifting, I always tell them, take as much time as you need to grieve this, right? And when you're ready, the universe will be ready to move with you and take you to this new place. Now, how long it takes for you to get there depends on how long you need for your grieving period. I have literally, over my course of my lifetime in 42 years, I've literally moved from one job to the next seamlessly and easily because I understood the concept that if I keep putting myself in this resistance mode and fighting it, it will drag out longer. And if I keep putting myself in this grieving mode and sadly accepting it, it will push on longer. So then when things started to come to me, I started making these changes and movements quickly. And then the opportunities came in. Case in point, I worked at a hospital in Florida. I was in the ER, a team lead registrar, where I worked and I was, taking care of schedules of people, which is hard when, that particular location is a 24-hour location. It's the ER, the emergency room. And you just had to always be on call and a beeper at your hip. And I literally had a 2-month-old baby. It was very stressful. It was tiring, beeper going off all hours, trying to get scheduling shifts and all this other stuff. That was the contrast that was created, that spirit was sending to me to say, it's time to move. It's time to move on to something else. Because me in that condition was not going to move on. I was newly married. I just, we just got a condo together and I had a new baby that was only 2 months old. No one in their right mind would want to leave that, right? Leave that job and then move on to something else. So what spirit did was they created the conditions to make it uncomfortable. And that's when I started to notice, and I said, I can't be here anymore, right? So then I put in my 2 weeks resignation and I did not have anything lined up. But that's what I'm saying. The easier you accept what it is that you're going through, the quicker things will come. On my last day there, which was a Friday, on my last day there, on that Friday, I went to my shift, the ER. I did what I had to do. And a doctor walked in, which I never saw. I never knew him by name. No, I knew him by name, but I never saw him in person. And he walked in and lo and behold, he was Guyanese, like I am, Guyanese. And he recognized that immediately. He's like, you're from Guyana. And I said, yes, I am. He's like, oh, I'm glad to know that you're here doing, the paperwork and I'll send all my clients to you. And I'm like, actually, I'm leaving today. This is my last day. And he's like, where are you going? And I'm like, actually, I don't know yet. I'll figure it out. He said, well, come by tomorrow, Saturday, and come for an interview. Oh, I said, oh, okay. So I went for the interview. I got the job. Monday, not even 2 days passed. Saturday, I got the interview. Monday, I was at work at his place. And within a month, I started as a secretary there, a receptionist at his place. And within a month, I became the program administrator for the whole addiction center, right? Hi, Zaraima. Hi, Pete. So the thing is, what do you notice about that in what I did? I willingly let go. I didn't fight it. I understood it. I understood on my core level, this needs to happen because this cannot continue on. This is uncomfortable. This is heavy. This doesn't make me feel good. I need to leave this job. And I put my trust out there and I put in my resignation. And it wasn't like I wasn't looking. I was putting up my interviews and resumes and stuff like that. But that just kind of dropped into my lap. So think about that when change comes upon you. How can you best handle this change by, I like to say, leaning into it. And I got that from Pema Chodron. She wrote a book. I believe her book was When Things Fall Apart. Right? And she wrote about when we have to deal with these difficulties of change. What should we do? We don't run from it. We don't hide from it. We just willingly accept that it is here and trust that we will be okay. She does this exercise. I can't remember it because it was such a long time ago I read the book, but I remember something like to this extent. When you're having one of those anxiety attacks, when you really hits you, for most women, they'll know this about when they're going through a breakup. Like when anybody's going through a breakup, you're kind of like, okay, everything's good. I'll keep myself busy. I'll put myself on my yoga schedule and meditation. Like I'll figure it out. I'll be busy. And you do really good for a couple days or weeks. You're really busy and you keep going and, but then that one day it hits. Oh my God, they're no longer here. Oh my God, I miss them. And that overwhelming sadness hits you. Where does it hit you? In your gut, right? One of the things I learned from Pema was to lean into that pain. Don't run from it. Don't hide from it. So I remember one time me and my boyfriend had a breakup, and it was so gut wrenching for me, not hearing from him or seeing him daily like I used to. And I kept myself busy for I think I got to 2 weeks. And then it just hit me that he was no longer here. And that emptiness and that sadness just, it just tore me apart. And when it tore me apart, instead of running from it, what I did was I just sat and I said, I'm going to allow myself to feel this pain. I'm going to count. I want to see how long this is. So I put my phone on and I sat there with the pain. And oh, it was so painful because usually we run from it, we hide from it, And I just sat there with that pain and feeling that loss and that sense of abandonment, and all these things start coming up. I thought I was dying is how bad it felt, that gut wrenching going into that pain. I couldn't breathe. It was caught in my throat. And I just cried and I sobbed and I just kept looking for the pain. Where are you now? Where are you now? Oh, you're in my back. Okay. And then, I would just sit with it. And then I would just cry and I would breathe through it and I would just send love to it. And I was like, it's okay. I'm hurting too. And then I would feel, where's the pain now? Oh, the pain is in my heart. Okay, I'm going to breathe into it. I'm going to send love to it. I'm hurting too. And I would just talk to my pain. And then eventually it let up. It just let up. Everything just cleared like a rainbow at the end of a storm. You won't believe it. I thought I was there for 30 minutes. I checked my phone because I was timing myself. That was literally 2 minutes of my life. 2 minutes of my life. But that's the thing. We think when we think, oh, I'm going to go into the pain, I'm going to allow myself to feel the pain, we think it's going to last forever. No, it doesn't. It actually lasts only a couple of minutes. It is the most gut-wrenching, heart hurting, painful thing that you go through, accepting that you've been hurt, accepting the pain of what has happened. But then when you're done and you release it from your body, you feel so brand new. You feel amazing, right? So this is what I'm talking about when I name this presence and the art of letting go. Because the thing is that we are so geared to run from things. We are so geared to not face things head on. When something is uncomfortable, we don't want to look at it. We don't want to pay attention to it. We want to distract from it. And you know what we do a lot too? We put the blame on other people. You caused this pain to me. You're the bad person. I'm the victim. And then we go into this just terrible, terrible rabbit hole of self-pity. Do we heal? No, because we scapegoated out like we always do with everything else. When you start showing up for your pain, you change the game. You change the game because your power lies within the pain. Your power lies there because it is hidden underneath all those layers. And those layers have rarely anything to do with what you are facing and more to do with your self-worth and what you feel about yourself. So when you think this is about the job, it's more about something else that you feel about yourself that you don't want to admit. When you feel this is about the relationship, this is more about the characteristics of that person that you have already self-identified within yourself, that you have already judged yourself about. It always comes back to us. So when we get triggered, the best thing we can do is just sit with that pain, as uncomfortable as it is, and just feel it. Don't think about it or try to reason or analyze it. Just sit with it and say, oh, where are you in my body? Oh, I feel you in my knee. Oh, that hurts. Yes, I can't breathe. I feel pain too. And then it moves again. Oh, it's in my shoulder. And you just follow it. You follow it all around your body until eventually it just has to run out. It just has to run out. What is my advice for those of you that are going through these changes in your life? It's very simple. Like I said, I've had to change countries, change states, change homes. I've had to change friends, change relationships, right? Change jobs and careers. Here's what I'm going to tell you. You all are infinitely more intuitive than you give yourself credit for. And you can take my word for that, right? Coming from a metaphysical teacher, a spiritual teacher, you are way more intuitive than you give yourselves credit for. So what you need to do is trust that when you are seeing, receiving, perceiving, and knowing things, this is what this is. When you are getting that hint, it's time to let go of this relationship, you already know what it is. When you're getting that hint, it's time to let go of this job, you already know what it is. Okay? What you have to do is create the space to allow you to heal from the grief that's going to come. Because remember, we don't like change. We're not built for it. On a soul level, we understand it very well and we're okay with it. On an egoic level, we're not built for it. We really want to be in a place of just comfort. But comfort rarely grows a person. Comfort doesn't give you the factors that you need, the variables that you need to push through to get you to that next place. Right? The art of letting go is simply to trust that it needs to let go and not argue it or fight for it or deny it, but just trust it needs to let go. I would freak my partner out all the time, Rob, because I would say to him, like, you know, throughout the 5 years of us dating, he has changed so much. I have changed so much. And there's sometimes, not all the time, but there's sometimes when we change, we're changing so radically that sometimes we're changing in opposition to each other. Whereas he's going left and I'm going right, or I'm going left and he's going right. And at those crossroads, we have these hard conversations. What do we do? And I always tell him, no matter what, you're my friend first. So if it comes to this day where we need to break up or split up or whatever, then that's fine. I'm okay with it. But what I'm not okay with is us not continuing on our friendship because you're too dear to me, right? Do you know how much pain I had to go through to be able to say those words to somebody and to remain in a place of non-ownership? Because we don't own people. We really don't. We think we do because they put, I don't know, a ring on our finger or they put some years in our bank account, right? 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever. We don't own anybody. We don't even own our own damn selves, right? So it's like, when you're with someone, you really need to be in this place of saying, I love you and I love you so much that I want you to keep growing on the path that you're growing on. And, you know, if it's taking you away from me, then you need to do that. You need to follow through with that because you don't want to be with somebody who's a caged bird. It never works out well. It never, because they will never be happy within themselves if they give up on themselves for you. It never works out well. So that's my talk about change and presence and letting go. So I'd love for you guys to unmute and let's have a discussion. You know, if you have questions for me, of course, ask me questions, but I'd like to hear from you. How have you changed? How have you dealt with change in your life? And what tips you have as well when you know that you have to let go of something? What do you do?
Irma, I just want to let you know, I really appreciate your messages about not holding on tight and getting, you know, if you're meant to change, you're going to change.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, you're going to find yourself in a bad position if you don't go with it. You know, I was thinking about how I ended up down here. It was a job relocation. At first I was laid off. But then I had this offer on the table and it ended up being one of the best things that ever happened to me.
Amazing.
So, you know, what was pretty traumatic going through it ended up giving me some of the best years of my life. So sometimes those outcomes aren't always bad or sometimes these things turn out best for you.
Yeah, better than you can imagine.
Exactly. So,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Thank you for that, Teresa.
I
And I love
remember,
Mhm.
I remember I was in love with this man, and we were going out, and I thought, you know, I said, I really think that I would like to be with you. And he said, I don't want to be with you. I don't want to have any children by you, because he had 2 children with mental illness. And
Mm.
my sister suffers from mental illness. I said, well, I can accept not having children. He said, no, I don't want to do that. And I said, well, then take me home. So I start thinking I'm going to sit home and cry. And I looked at him and I said, I've been through worse than you. I've been through worse than this. We're going to go out and have fun, because I'm not sitting home and feeling sorry for myself tonight. We
I
have
love that.
things to do. And he said, so you're not going to be angry with me? I'm like, no, I'm not going to be mad at you. Let's just go out and have some fun. I'll deal with this later.
I want to be that
Did.
level.
And we did. We had a wonderful time. And I call him. And most of the men I broke up with, I didn't care. I was like, move on, you're a piece of shit. But with him, I wanted to keep him in my life, because
Yeah.
he's such a good man. So I said, you know what? I'm okay with this. I said, let's continue to be friends. And he was very well connected. And I just moved here from Chicago. So he used to take me to the National Press Club for dinner. And so I went there, and the hostess looked at him really weird and looked at me really weird. And I looked at him, I said, so who'd you bring here last night? Because I'm like, don't worry about it. I'm on to this. And so I ended up, and it was good that it didn't work out, because I ended up traveling all over the world. And and we remained friends. So one night we went out again. He was a member. So we went out, and he brought me some cocktails, and he looked at me and he said, you know what, Beth, I can't pull the wool over your eyes anymore. I said, no, you can't. Because now I could, because I traveled with a lot of men. So I was on to the game, because I had seen it work out. But I think what I've learned through my most difficult times is that the people I expected to show up didn't, and the craziest people showed up. Like I had a fire when I first moved here, and I couldn't live in my apartment. I couldn't breathe. I had asthma at that point. And so the friend of mine that introduced me to this area, I called her, I said, could I come stay with you? And she said, no, you have 2 cats. I can't have you stay here. She was the only person I knew. But then I get a phone call, because I belonged to this diversity committee. I've always belonged. I did a lot of diversity. This whole situation brought up all these things I've done. So I belong to this diversity committee, and this woman who was on the committee said, Beth, I saw the flames from 395 and I thought it might be you. How do you know that? She said, and I thought you might need a place to stay.
Oh.
And so I got my clothes out of the laundry, 2 garbage bags full of clothes. And that's what I lived with for 3 months. But it taught me about, you know, you just don't know. And that the key is to have faith.
Yeah.
And the key is to remember the people that you think that you should rely on, don't count on it. They may not be the people that show up in your life. So be open to the fact that what you put out to others without any need, I do things for others without any need to receive anything in return. The universe is a circle. And what you put out, you get back in a different form from someone you least expect it from. So now I have to remember to have faith.
Yeah.
That's like my message.
I love that, because one of the things too that really can create space for people is what you touched upon, is about not having expectations of people. When you don't have expectations of people, it frees you up from depending on them, because then, you know, you never really thought that they were going to do anything. And then it also frees you up from obligation, The word even obligation just makes me feel heavy. Like I just gained 10 pounds because it's this whole, I did something for you. Now you have to do something for me. And it doesn't feel authentic or organic. It just feels very, very heavy. So when we start moving in this new light, if you will, this new tunnel of lightness, what we're focusing on is just one, being self-reliant, and then two, creating these intimate connections with people in a way that doesn't require as much exchange of energy as we feel relationships should be. You know, it's about just saying to people, I really enjoy your presence. And I just kind of want to hang out with you for a while, if that's okay with you. And let's just see how this goes. You know, sometimes when I say that to women, they think I'm hitting on them. And I'm like, no, I'm not hitting on you. This is how I talk. You know, and they're like, well, girl, you romanticize me more than men. I was like, well, I feel very sorry. You're not dating the right men. Okay. They're like, you got away with words. And I was like, okay, but that's the truth. That's the way I talk to my friends. You know, I'm really enjoying this moment with you. I'm enjoying your presence. I'm enjoying everything about you. And let's keep it here. And then, you know, whatever happens in the future happens in the future. When people say to me, I'm going to be with you till death, it chokes me. Like I get like rashes on my throat, you know, I'm just like, ooh, that's so heavy. That's such an obligation. That's such a commitment. And I don't ever want to be in a commitment unless I really want to be there, you know? So thank you, Beth. That was really great sharing. Anyone else about your letting go or questions or comments about letting go?
I know for me, letting go has always been a very hard thing.
Yeah.
Just the idea just makes my skin crawl.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I have found, especially as of late, is like imagining, like visualizing, actually letting go. Like for example, like I've done it. I had to do it recently. I was imagining myself just like holding on to this cord, this very thick cord, and just let go. Just
Beautiful.
let go. And what I find is that sometimes in the visualization, I will reach back. I'm like, no, don't touch it, or come back. And that's kind of me letting myself know, like, I'm attached here. What am I attached to? Where are the questions, like, starts the line of questioning.
I love that. That's really good visualization, Rachel. And I hope that you guys who are having issues with letting go to try it and to see how that feels. It brings up to mind for me, one of the other exercises I do with letting go, which is I start to focus on what I'm gaining. Because if you're letting go of something, you're gaining something, right? So like, and it could be simple little stupid things I make up just to make myself happy and smile. So let's say I go through, let's start with careers. Let's say I give up a job, you know, that was just stressful for me. I go into immediately, well, no more commuting. Okay, that's the first thing I am grateful for. No more commuting. And you know what? When Sally always muked whatever nastiness she nuked in that microwave, don't got to deal with it anymore. That's on them. They can figure it out, whatever the heck she's nuking in that microwave. You always have that one coworker that brings some dish from hell. And then it's just like, what is this? You know? That's why I purposely don't bring curry to, you know, because everybody would be like wanting to eat what
Or
you have.
fish. Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah. Or fish. Yeah. It's just always that one coworker. With relationships, it's actually a lot of fun because we give up a lot of ourselves in relationships. So if you start focusing on what you're gaining, like for me, the first thing is the bed. Oh, I got this whole king size bed to myself. How great. And then I could go to the movies and really just wear sweats and no makeup and have like a whole bag of popcorn to myself and a soda and a hot dog. Like, look at me living in style over here, you know? And I would just find these like little cute ways to make myself like, because when you go through a change, the automatic response of your body is to do things the way you kept doing them. So if you quickly change your behavior on that, then the change feels very exciting, almost like a new adventure, right? So instead of like, okay, let's say you're giving up a job and I work from 7 to 3. So I have to get up at 6. The minute you let go of that job, sleep in First thing you do, sleep in, right? And then do everything opposite to what you would have done for your day with that job. If you ate lunch at 12, eat it at 1, eat it at 11. Heck, eat 2 lunches, one at 11 and one at 1, you know, like you just change it up. So it helps with that process of change because you're breaking patterning. And remember, as humans living in a society, we are conditioned to patterning. That's the way they control us, right? Keep following the pattern. Don't look left, don't look right, look ahead, keep following the pattern, everything will be okay. So when you're trying to go through a change, all of your body almost just viscerally reacts to it because it's like, no, this is not right. This is not the pattern. What are we doing? Right? And then your freedom almost is something that looks like jail, which is interesting, isn't it? So these are little tips and tricks that you can do to create these changes.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So, you know, I go through phases, which means when I change jobs, usually I have 3 really bad jobs. We're not even talking, not even nice jobs, like the guy who fired 13 people in 7 months. So I get out of there and then I work for a bunch of guys who don't want any women there. And I find out because I'm at lunch and someone said, how'd they ever hire you? And they were all like, sorry, but West Virginia Hicks, who really, I don't know. Anyway, they did cybersecurity and didn't like women. And there I am in this place going, and they're blatantly rude to me. And so I asked them to help me. They're like, no. And I'm thinking, okay, so I go get a cup of coffee. I'm like, how did I land here? And next thing I know, I have a couple of jobs in my email and I'm like, okay, time to go. But I fear change because usually, especially with jobs and even with people, I make a lot of, I don't know if they're wrong decisions, but I have a lot of very painful learning experiences that I have to move on and I move very quickly, which is good. I'm like, okay, done, next, but it's just not, I'd like it to be a little more pleasant than that kind of, I call it butt kick.
Yeah.
I get my ass kicked and I'm like, really, Lord, again, you know?
I think, you know, I like that you make a lot of mistakes because I learn the best through my mistakes. And I guarantee you that even though you're making a lot of mistakes, they're probably not the same mistake over and over and over and over again. There's always a different twist. So what that tells me is as an evolving soul, you are finding all the neat and intricate ways to work out some karma stuff.
Okay.
And instead of you coming and saying, all right, I'll hit 10 lessons of karma, you're like on level 6, right? I'll hit 257 lessons of karma before I leave. And I'm gonna knock it out. So next lifetime, I'm a bodhisattva, right? I'm like up there with Buddha and Jesus. That's the way I like to think about it. And you know, all of that is perception, right?
Yeah.
We really don't know. We never know. And I rarely think that when we die, people will be making like a resume of all the mistakes we've made. I've made a ton. Y'all know I've made a ton. And I don't think that people remember me for those things.
No, they don't.
I think they'll remember me for all the good things that I did do. And I think that's how you'll be remembered too. So keep making those mistakes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And just like enjoy it because, you know, this I'm a type A personality, right?
Yeah.
Capricorn here, right here. So
You are.
yeah, type A all the way through.
I love it.
So there's that need, always that need in me to be perfect and to get it right every single time. That's the Capricorn work ethic. I had to let that go. I had to let that go because in following my heart, I have made a lot of mistakes. But the mistakes made me feel, it felt so light when you compare it to not following your heart. Because how many of us have done that? Not followed our heart, done what was supposed to be the right thing, you know, followed through. And then next thing you know, you're still in a whammy, right? So to me, it was like, if I'm going to end up in a whammy, I'd rather do it where I was following my heart and I end here, as opposed to doing something other people told me to do and then still end here anyways, you know?
Thank you for that perspective. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're absolutely welcome. So this brings us to the end of our little chat. Thank you, ladies, for showing up. Thank you, Pete and Zarima on YouTube and Stevie on YouTube for showing up. And let me know. All right. Let me know what else comes up for you that you'd like some chat time about. And I'd be happy to follow through. All right. So
Thank
bye,
you
guys.
much. Take care, my dear.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye, guys. See you soon.
Bye-bye. See you soon.